In the history of warfare, a soldier is defined by his weapon. But in 1945, amidst the bloodiest conflict humanity had ever seen, one young man dared to be different. He was bullied, ridiculed, and called a coward. Why? Because while others gripped their rifles, he gripped a Bible. He refused to touch a gun, not out of fear, but out of a conviction so deep it baffled everyone around him. He was alone in a crowd of brothers, an outcast in his own army. But destiny called them to Okinawa, to a place known as Hacksaw Ridge, a 400-foot vertical cliff that led straight into the mouth of hell. As the soldiers climbed that cargo net, they weren't just fighting the enemy, they were fighting fear itself. The air was thick with smoke, and the ground shook with the fury of artillery. No one expected the coward without a gun to survive the first hour. As the Americans crested the ridge, the trap was sprung. The battlefield was not empty, it was a kill zone. Suddenly, camouflaged spider holes opened up in the ground. Hidden Japanese machine gun nests unleashed a torrent of crossfire that tore through the ranks. Mortar shells rained down, turning the rocky plateau into a slaughterhouse. The Japanese defenders, fighting with the ferocity of men defending their homeland, launched bonsai charges through the smoke. It was chaos. It was carnage. The top of the ridge was a wasteland of death. The ambush was sudden and brutal. Bullets flew like rain and explosions tore the earth apart. The American unit was overwhelmed, decimated by an unseen enemy. The order came, retreat. Every able-bodied soldier scrambled back down the cliff to safety, but one man stayed behind. On the edge of that burning plateau, standing alone against the fiery sky, the unarmed medic refused to leave his fallen comrades. Night fell, turning the battlefield into a nightmare of shadows. While enemy patrols hunted for survivors with bayonets, he crawled through the mud. He became a ghost in the darkness. He didn't have a weapon to kill, he only had his hands to heal. Dragging men twice his size, dodging sniper fire, he worked in the pitch black, guided only by the faint light of flares and the sound of pain. One by one, he lowered them down the steep cliff with a rope. His hands were burned raw, his body was broken, and his energy was gone. But with every life he saved, he whispered a simple prayer that echoed in the silence of his soul. Lord, please help me get one more. Just one more, and then one more. Through the terrifying night, that prayer became his strength. He didn't try to save the whole world at once. He just focused on the next heartbeat, the next breath.
Hold the pressure right there.
We need to move him now.
Get that bandage tight. I've got to keep moving. Over here, medic.
When dawn broke, the sun revealed the miracle. He hadn't just saved a few, he had lowered 75 men to safety, 75 lives. Even when he was finally struck by a sniper's bullet, shattering his leg, he didn't stop. Crawling on the ground, in agony, he still tried to bandage another soldier before allowing himself to be rescued.
Thank you.
Just take the bandage. You'll be all right. No, stop. We have to go back for the others.
We're not leaving you, soldier. Now move it, let's go.
Keep it tight. Easy now, easy. Don't let him swing.
As they lowered him down that cliff, the same cliff where he had faced death alone, the soldiers looked up at him not with disdain, but with awe. The men who had mocked him were now weeping, reaching out just to touch him.
Wait, stop. My Bible, it's gone. We have to go back.
They risked their lives crawling back onto the ridge just to find his lost Bible, because they realized that his weapon was far more powerful than any rifle. It was love. The story of the hero without a gun teaches us a profound truth. True courage is not about how many lives you can take, but how many lives you can save. In a world that often demands we conform, standing firm in your convictions is the bravest thing you can do. You don't need a weapon to be a warrior. Sometimes the strongest force on earth is a gentle heart that refuses to leave anyone behind. December 1914. Europe is engulfed in the flames of the Great War. On the Western Front, winter has arrived with a bone-chilling cold, turning the battlefield into a living hell. Amidst the mud, barbed wire, and lurking death, soldiers huddle in the trenches. They are hungry, they are freezing, and above all, they are exhausted. In the eyes of these young men, hope seems buried under the thick snow. Christmas is coming, but here there are no church bells ringing, only the terrifying silence of destruction. But then, as darkness fell on Christmas Eve, something strange happened. Under a clear sky, the moonlight illuminated the cratered earth. From the other side of the line, the place of the enemy, tiny lights began to appear. Not the flash of gunfire, but candlelight. Small Christmas trees were lit right on the trench parapets. And then, a voice rose up. The melody of Stille Nacht, silent night, echoed through the air, piercing the fog, warming hearts that were freezing with fear. The British soldiers were stunned. They lowered their rifles, listening to a sound that seemed impossible in this place. Suspicion gradually gave way to a surge of emotion. And then the historic moment arrived. A German soldier, alone and unarmed, stepped out of the trench, walking straight into no man's land, an act of extraordinary courage. In response, from the other side, British soldiers stepped out too. On the thin line between life and death, hands that once held guns to kill each other now clasped together. That handshake brought the war to a standstill. Like a domino effect, hundreds of soldiers from both sides flooded the open ground. Invisible barriers crumbled. No longer allies or Germans, now they were just men, fathers and sons far from home. They stood together in the zone of death, sharing cigarettes, scraps of food, and exchanging small tokens. A button exchanged for a smile. Language barriers no longer mattered, because humanity is the only common language. They pulled crumpled photos of their wives and children from their pockets. Kinder, children waiting back home. They saw themselves in the eyes of their enemy. But the most sacred moment was when they buried their fallen comrades together. A chaplain read from the Bible, and soldiers from both sides bowed their heads in prayer. Under a simple wooden cross, death made no distinction between uniforms. Hatred vanished, leaving only sorrow. And then, from the sadness, joy unexpectedly erupted. An old leather football appeared. Without a word, they built goalposts from coats and helmets. The strangest football match in human history began right on the frozen snow. No referees, no rules, just laughter and jubilation. Soldiers raced through the mud, slipping, cheering. In that moment, they forgot they were soldiers. They became carefree young men again. The war seemed a million miles away. But the sun must eventually set. The twilight signaled the end of the truce. The fires died down. A bright red flare shot into the sky like a cruel warning from command. It was time to say goodbye. They looked at each other with lingering regret. Pats on the shoulder, silent nods replacing farewell words. They knew that tomorrow nothing would be the same. They hurriedly exchanged family addresses with a promise, "If I fall, tell my wife." The crowd dispersed, returning the cold emptiness to no man's land. Back in the trenches, a suffocating atmosphere returned. Soldiers picked up their rifles with a sense of guilt. How could they pull the trigger on men they had just embraced, men they had shared bread with? Officers' shouts rang out, forcing them back to the brutal reality of the war machine.
Immediately! This fraternization is an absolute disgrace! Get back up there now!
The next morning, the fog returned. The field was silent, leaving only scattered footprints. When the order to fire came, many soldiers deliberately aimed high into the sky. Their fingers trembled on the triggers. Although the cannons roared again, tearing through the sky, there was one thing bombs could not destroy. That was the memory of Christmas 1914, an eternal proof that even in the darkest depths of hell, the flame of humanity never truly dies.